Robert Frank sucked a sad poem right out of America onto film, taking rank among the tragic poets of the world. The humor, the sadness, the everythingness and Americanness of these pictures. To Robert Frank, I now give this message. You got eyes. I am at Don Cameron's house the day after this. So Don, we need to talk about
Robert Frank. John called me and said that he was interested in Robert Frank because of where things are going in the country right now. And after yesterday, where within a 3-hour span, 16 guilty pleas came down, he felt like somebody who was one of the earliest people to look at Americans in an unvarnished way.
and see some of the rot that is
And
part of our
see
nature.
the generational sin, I guess you would call it, of whatever, made us, though I'm not an anti-American, believe me. I've done good and I love this country.
Me too.
To be Teflon about it all. Nonetheless, he was the first to not show America in an idealized Ozzie and Harriet, father knows best kind of way. He comes out of the tradition directly of another guy who went around America making photographs, Walker Evans. Of course, Walker Evans was making these pictures during the Depression in the 1930s with the FSA, the Farm Security Administration. He was sent out on a mission with a bunch of other photographers to show how Americans are going to survive the Depression, show the strong will, show the hard work ethic, show the creativity with nothing. He made amazing pictures. Robert Frank absolutely was inspired by Walker Evans. I'm sure they had conversations and whatnot, at least after the fact that the Americans came out. Now, this is done in 1936 at Child's Grave. When I used to show the students, I'd say, these people had nothing. They had an old Coke bottle, some trash pieces of stone, but they put together a memorial out of real love and feeling. 20 years later, Robert Frank makes this picture, no doubt in homage to that picture. In 1956 America, for 69 cents, you can remember your loved ones. I used to go like this. For a little change in your pocket, you can buy off the most intense feelings humans are supposed to have. To me, he saw a certain desensitized American in the materialism and the 2 cars in every garage. The whole thing about the 50s being the decade of Abundanza, well, he saw that as a little, difficult, certainly, to deal with. In 1950s, the most popular photographic exhibition was called The Family of Man. It was organized by Edward Steichen, the former pictorialist, the first curator of photography at the Museum of Modern Art. Photographs from the post-war era, where the goal was to show that we're all the same. Humans are humans. We all eat the same, whether you're in Ethiopia or in, the Bronx, or we all hate and we all love. It was about the family of man. It was an uplifting magazine story kind of photo show. It was exhibited like a magazine story, big prints and little prints and pages feeling like they're being turned. And it was the most popular thing ever. 1 million plus people in those days, that's a huge number, came to see it. But it was this homogenized, sanitized version that Edward Steichen wanted to put out as a projection of how he saw mankind and humanity in the mid-1950s. That's another thing that Robert Frank was up against. This is what people wanted to see. This is what they got. It's the bus. It's Rosa Parks, right? Look at the picture, right? You got picture within a picture, 1, 2, 3, 4. You got this very stern, and I'm just going to read body language, judgmental, as if there's a 2x4 up her back, giving her good posture kind of lady, middle-aged white lady. I'm going to read into that guy's gesture. I see kind of a demoralized, hand hanging over the edge, I'm done fighting kind of vibe. And then you got the 2 little kids in the middle representing the future, looking as unbelievably shocked, and they don't know what the hell's going on. So this is it. This is how he saw America. And it's right there on the cover of the book. The whole Rosa Parks story. That's an amazing photograph.
So how did this influential book come to be? If his pictures sometimes have a dark and tragic quality, that is well earned. Robert Frank will be 94 in November. He was born in Switzerland in 1924, the son of a Jew who had lost his German citizenship. During Robert's teenage years, the Nazi threat from nearby Germany must have been quite horrendous. Uninspired about becoming a businessman like his father, he developed a passion for photography, and his first book of photos came out in 1946. He came to the U.S. and got married in 1950. The couple would soon have a daughter and a son. Also in 1950, Robert Frank met Edward Steichen, who put him in a group show called 51 American Photographers, and also the Family of Man show. The following is from a 2014 article in the Guardian newspaper by photography critic Sean O'Hagan. Frank was 31 in 1955 when he secured the Guggenheim grant that financed his various road trips across America with his wife and his 2 young children in tow. He shot around 28,000 pictures. When Les Américains was published in France in 1958, it consisted of just 83 black and white images, but it changed the nature of photography, what it could say, and how it could say it. Published in the United States as The Americans a year later, it remains perhaps the most influential photography book of the 20th century. Don and I both taught at the Art Institute of Philadelphia. I loved his lectures on the history of photography. His knowledge was impressive, but it was his passion for photography and his creative way of looking at pictures that really inspired me. So I got him to set up his dual slide projectors and perform his magic once again, which I may occasionally interrupt to add my own 2 cents worth, which does not necessarily reflect Don's views.
It's called The Americans, so lots of American flags, right? Here I see both halves of Robert Frank's point of view. The most controversial, in my opinion, is this one. I mean, here we got 2 ladies watching a parade. That's all it's called, parade, Hoboken, New Jersey. One lady's head is cut off by the American flag, and the other lady's head is in the shadows. I mean, if you were going to take it to its literal conclusion, you would say this picture should be entitled Blind Patriotism. You know, this woman is blindly patriotic, and this woman is just in the shadows letting it happen, you know, like so many people do. It's just human nature. That's what he saw. You're not going to find this on an episode of Father Knows Best. Now here he has an optimistic point of view. A July 4th picnic, a transparent American flag. Tattered and pieced back together. When you look close, there's several repairs, so it's been through a lot. 2 little kids, remember I said kids always represent the future, hand in hand, going under the American flag. Are they walking into a more transparent future, perhaps? Because I think that's actually what he's trying to say. He sees optimism when he sees the transparency of the American flag, particularly with the kids, because his hope is the future will be not more of this, but a new world like that. Just a final American flag shot. As far as I'm concerned, this is the invention of Archie Bunker. You know, some loud, boisterous patriot that sounds like a tuba.
And in the end, he's always the fool.
He had a fascination with cars because he saw Americans were just so in love with their cars. He had a fascination with the drive-in movies. So he saw Americans and their love affair with cars as something worth documenting, something extreme, an example of their priorities in life. Maybe they were a country on the move. I mean, I can see him saying, in America, they get in their car to go watch TV. So there's always an edge. This picture, for example, right? The car is covered. This is a humble person's house. 1 story, 1 door, 1 window. But don't get any dirt on the car. Again, he says in a sarcastic tone of voice. So Robert Frank saw that Americans are kind of nuts about their cars, but he also saw cars from the completely other side of the equation. And in the book, these pictures follow each other. So he wanted you to see the car where somebody's priorities are a little out of whack and bodies from a car accident from the side of the road.
As well as viewing the car as a symbol of American freedom and excess, Frank also saw it literally as a vehicle for sex, as young Americans can drive away from prying eyes for their assignations. He also documents the weird connection between American car culture and over-the-top Christian piety. Are these photographs funny? Or are they portraits of a spiritually bankrupt society?
So he has this edge, but he's just as joyous as he is dark. Here he sees like true sincerity, right? These people are really into what they're looking at, and then true insincerity at a political rally in Hoboken, New Jersey. Jubilance. If you look close, this woman is just exuberant. She's beautiful, an open field, there's a crucifix on the horizon, and then the one on the right. Grotesque materialism. The handbag morphs into the dress, into the fur, into the curls. She's so artificial, she's so decorated, the husband is so unhappy. Does that kind of materialism make you happy? Here a lady is sitting in the middle of a field and she's 1,000 times happy. So he saw this in America, this dichotomy. It was there. America was as great as that picture on the left, and unfortunately it was as gross as that picture on the right. He saw the political hysteria, what, again, directly related to kind of what's going on. This is just a political rally. And I used to joke with the students, is this Congress or a mafia convention at Las Vegas? It's the pinky and the cigar that make you go in that direction. Tiny guy. He was like 5'6", 140 pounds, traveling around the country in a car with a little foreign accent and a tiny secret camera, a Leica that he shot as secretively as he possibly could. I mean, he saw alternative lifestyles, and he saw the tension, the standoff. The picture on the right, I think, could coin the phrase shooting from the hip, where he literally would hold the camera on his hip. Because if they caught him taking that picture, they'd just drag him behind the back of the building and beat the shit out of him. Oftentimes, this picture on the left of these guys that are all dolled up, I show with Diane Arbus's pictures of transvestites. And the difference I make is that Robert Frank was the first to really acknowledge it on the outside world, and Diane Arbus brought us into their bedrooms. He sees it on the outside, she photographed it from the inside. To me, it's about nature of prejudice. I look at this lady holding this baby. She's so dark. The baby's so white. And I look at the expression on her face. You could easily misread it, but I see very caring, loving, nurturing kind of expression. That kid is being taken care of right now. How can a kid that's taken care of like that grow up prejudiced? Well, that's the whole question, right? So then he photographs this couple. I get the students to agree, are these people related? Is that a grandmom and a granddaughter? Yes, they agree. And then I get them to try to talk about what makes them look so much the same. And we boil it down to their expressions are similar. And I didn't read this anywhere, but my strongest guess would be Robert Frank deliberately stood where the sun was really bright behind him in a spot where some people were going to pull up and be forced to squint their eyes at the sun, at what they were looking at. And then we have a picture of that. And that, to me, makes them look more the same. So that leads to, well, what does that mean? We're talking about the nature of prejudice. Well, and finally the kids get it. Oh, you mean the little girl already has the same ideas as her grandmother? I said, hey, maybe that's true. I don't know. Robert Frank, he makes questions. He doesn't give answers. What's the coolest job to have? To be on TV. 60 million people might be seeing at that moment this pretty girl. She's sitting on a junky plywood riser with all these cables and technicians. What's reality here? Is this reality? or is this reality? And that's a question that gets posed in 1960s photography over and over and over again. One of my favorites. It's just called A Movie Premiere, right? But look at it. I mean, who's the real people here? Obviously, the ones that he focused on in the background. So that means he's deliberately putting her out of focus. That's the exact opposite of what you learn to do in photography. It's supposed to be the other way around. Pictorialists maybe did it sometimes for their artistic reasons, but this is done for a much harsher reason. He's making them look real, therefore she must be not real. Oh, movie stars are not real? Does she really care about them? Absolutely not. I mean, look at these dead black holes for eyes. They're not alive. She's just an image. She's a product of Hollywood. She's a product of Mad Men model magazine. She's just a Fifth Avenue product. She's not a real person. These are the real people. But then look at these people. Oh, if I had that dress, my husband would treat me different. They're so envious. And what are they doing? They're just being envious of this Fifth Avenue Hollywood creation. So he's making the point, just like the Ten Commandments. Don't pay homage to false idols. I don't get religious very often, but that's close. Imagery. TV's on with nobody watching. He loved jukeboxes. He saw the revolution in the jukeboxes. Whether they were down in some wooden structure somewhere or in the heart of a major city. He really feared in such a land of materialism, there's going to be an absence of feeling. There's going to be an absence of soul. I think he was onto something. I lived it in the 50s. I tell one story where my father, at one point when I was a kid, literally borrowed money from the mafia to buy toys for my sister and I to put on the Christmas tree. And as long as he got it paid back, in 4 to 6 days, everything was going to be all right.
And people say, ooh, how mean they look. But all they want to do is arrow on down that road and get back to the sack. The faces don't editorialize or criticize or say anything but this is the way we are in real life. And if you don't like it, I don't know anything about it because I'm living my own life, my way. And may God bless us all. Maybe, if we deserve it.
And here he is, age 12 years old, with his father in Italy. So he must have come from a fairly upper-class background. Dad's at a carnival, it says. So personally, he looks like mortified that his father's shooting probably live ducks in some sort of crazy thing, He became a filmmaker, and here he is in 1972 filming the Rolling Stones concert, the one where the Hells Angels killed somebody in California. That image was taken at the Toronto show. So that was what he did right after The Americans.
I wanted to watch this film online, but came up with this. Sean O'Hagan of The Guardian wrote, "The uncompromising diaristic style of the infamous Cocksucker Blues caught the boredom and dissolution of life on the road in a grainy verite style that was way too revealing for the group. Legend has it that Mick Jagger acknowledged the film's greatness, but told Frank, if it shows in America, we'll never be allowed in the country again."
After that, lots of bad luck, lots of personal trauma. Just kind of disappeared in Canada and makes very personal art where he, scratches painful words on the pictures, and it's rough stuff.
In 1974, his daughter Andrea died in a plane crash. In 1994, his son Pablo, who had been diagnosed with schizophrenia decades earlier, died in a mental hospital. Robert Frank started a foundation to help artists in 1995. Sean O'Hagan of The Guardian wrote, "When I asked Robert Frank about Sick of Goodbyes, he said that after his daughter's death, his work had shifted from being about what I saw to what I felt. He added, I was really destroying the picture. I didn't believe in the beauty of a photograph anymore. Perhaps, though he really never had. And that is where the real and enduring power of the Americans resides, in the cold, hard truth of his outsider's gaze. I hesitate to disagree with either Robert Frank or Sean O'Hagan, but some of these photographs are just so incredibly beautiful to me.
There he is. Robert Frank, thank you very much.
He revealed us to ourselves. Through his lens, we see both our potential and our contradictions. How we resolve our divisions is up to us. But the artist who wrote, "The wind will blow the fire of pain across everyone in time," surely holds out hope that the better angels of our nature will win in the end.